with the emotional bridge. The idea that emotions reside in the subconscious mind, and our job as hypnotherapists is to get in touch with those emotions. How do you get in touch with those emotions? Well, you have to find the emotional bridge, that thing that gets you from the conscious into the subconscious so that you can communicate effectively with the subconscious, and that's where real change occurs. When does it appear? And the short answer is when you least expect it. Okay? So if you were taught with a sequential model and it says, do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, that's a successful session. Well, what happens when the same Murphy's Law comes in and the client presents something that you're totally not expecting at a time when you're thinking, well, I should be moving to this next, and the client's not cooperating. The client's making me look bad because I can't do what I'm supposed to be doing. Keep in mind, we're there for the client. So your job is to adapt. And if the emotional bridge appears, whenever it appears, if they walk in your door and see you and say, good morning, and then, go into an abreaction, that's the time to deal with the emotional bridge. So, recognizing that, doing something with it are different things, but that's why we're here. To give up all the structure that you've learned, forget about sequences, because you can get lost in that. And you can start to forget about client needs and start thinking about your own needs. This is what I need to do as a hypnotherapist, as opposed to this is what I need to be doing to help the person sitting in front of me. And in some cases, you've been working with them, she'll work with a client for 6 hours in a stretch. And at 5.5 hours, and she's thinking, I'm ready to go to dinner, and so I'm just going to wrap this up. And then, boom, the emotional bridge occurs, and oops, now I got to deal with this, because that's in the benefit of the client. So don't try to anticipate it. Don't try to guess when it is. It is whenever it is. And your responsibility as the conscientious healer, caregiver, however you want to refer yourself, your responsibility at that point is to deal with it for the benefit of the client.
So we work with the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind does not reason. So we're dealing with how a person feels. So it's all about getting your client to a place where you are emoting.
Client. So how do you know it's there? Well, there are signs, and they're not consistent. So, tears behind the eyes. I'm not real good at seeing certain colors. I coached for many years. I can't see bruising. Probably not a good thing. And so I hear all the time about this tears behind the eyes. If you see it, great. I don't. So I have to rely on other things. Stonewalling, the person who just sort of sits there and stops talking. The denial or redirection. No, I don't have a problem. It's something else. Let's go to this because I know my treatment plan better than you do. You ever run into those? The counselors who come in for their own counseling. Inarticulation, not able to express. They know something's going on, but just I'm not sure what's happening. I can't figure it out. Sometimes a subtle shift in body position, turning in the chair, crossing arms, crossing legs in response to a certain thing. Okay. Abreaction, obvious emotional expression. And that's when it's hitting you over the head, that something's going on and you need to deal with it. But you also need to be aware of the more subtle expressions. Sometimes you don't know. And she's described many situations to me where she was working with a client and the client just starts to respond in an odd way. One client, she asked to take off the cap. And this is a very highly responsible person who supervises thousands of other people and just got this very petulant, no. And it's like, well, this doesn't seem like a very logical response to a simple request. And she asked a couple more questions, and it continued in that petulant, no. And then she realized her voice has changed. And then she realized that she had regressed to 6 or 7 years of age. Okay, now's the time to move and do something with it. So you want to move with it as soon as you recognize something's happening. So we've seen some examples of what the bridge looks like. How do you get somebody there? Because that's, if you're going to do hypnotherapy in this manner, that's your goal, is to get somebody to the emotional bridge so that you can then get them to cross that bridge with you into the subconscious space where the real magic's going to happen. So one thing you can do is help the client identify what their feelings are. And for a lot of people, they are so divorced from feeling that they can't conceive it, much less describe it. Now, a lot of the people in these examples are trained in hypnotherapy, are hypnotherapists themselves, and so some of these conclusions come pretty quickly because they know what the right answers are, they just haven't wanted to acknowledge it within themselves. And so you'll recognize that I'm showing you some things here that could take much longer to develop in the context of a client who is not familiar with this process. Those, the counselors who come in, they're the worst because they're diagnosing themselves. And to get them to the point of not talking about a diagnosis, but talking about feelings, and to actually experience those feelings themselves is a pretty difficult process. Or it's not difficult, it can be time consuming.
These are all my students that I trained recently in Asia. They were asking cognitive questions. The more thinking question you ask, the less you use your subconscious mind. So it's like, okay, we're going in the wrong track. We're trying to measure temperature with a ruler. It doesn't work. So let's stop doing that. Let's go back to engaging the person how to feel. So a lot of times, the crucial moment, you know how when you make scrambled eggs, how many of you know how to make scrambled eggs? Okay, what happens when you overcook the scrambled eggs? You know, you're stirring, and you're cooking and you're chatting and you're not paying attention, and suddenly it sets. And in an instant, if you don't take it off the heat and you stir it some more, it becomes watery. You overcook the eggs. But we don't want to overcook the eggs. We want to wait for that critical moment when it sets, when it flips, when it transforms, when it changes form. So the emotional bridge is we have to get back to the moment when that negative emotion was set in your subconscious mind. We have to get back there to unset it. Well, we can't reverse scrambled eggs, but we can reverse bad emotions. And so we have to get you back to that bridge. Most people are very scared of it, and I tell people, don't be a wimp about it. I was a wimp about it once, long time ago when I was new in practice. I was working with a client, and suddenly she reacted, and she was 5 years old, and her uncle was touching her in the wrong places. And instead of telling me then, in that first instant, she kept saying, oh, my head hurts, my head hurts. So here's a 236-pound lady saying the head hurts, and I said, oh, goodness, I hope she's not going to stroke out on me. Okay, so I wimped out and said, take a deep breath, let's go somewhere else. That's called wimping out, right? So then I thought about it, and it's good always to have a mentor. I was new in practice, so I called my mentor, who was at that time Gil Boyne. How many of you knew who Gil Boyne was? So I called Gil. I said, Gil, what do you do about this stuff? And he said, you wimp. Nobody has ever stroked out or died from hypnosis session. Go through it. That's the best piece of the work. So next time she came in, I asked her permission. I said, now, please, would you trust me? If we get to a scary place, I will take you through it. Trust me. Then she went right back. Emotional bridge, people. Remember this for the rest of your life. Emotional bridge. Hallelujah. That is the magic space, right? So God there took her through. That's when we found out it was her uncle with his hand in her bathing suit. She was a little girl. Then we started to work the magic.
Eye trance, but a lot of this is happening in open eye trance. The instant induction goes into the closed eye trance, which you're more familiar with, but the idea is that it doesn't need you don't need to stop everything and say, oops, I just noticed a bridge. Okay, I want you to sit back in the chair, relax, 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 relax. Okay, your fingers are relaxing, your toes are relaxing, you feel the tingling, now we're going to walk down the steps. They're already there. You don't need all that. Okay? The purpose of talking about open eye trance, and the way she's described it, we've actually got a YouTube video where she goes into a lot of detail about open eye trance. But the idea is that for a lot of, for not all clients, when they walk in the door, they are immediately in an altered state of consciousness just by being in your presence. You need to take advantage of that. Everything you say, everything you do is being processed in some way by the subconscious mind. Now, there are certain things that you would like to go a little deeper. Yeah, probably. But the idea that you have to stop everything, you can't do anything until you have properly induced trance. No, you don't need to get caught up. You don't need to get stuck on that. So when isn't necessary, the induction's necessary, I'm going to say, when you've not gotten to that emotional bridge yet. You've set them up, but they're just not there yet. And so I know in a lot of cases, if she's doing, and she doesn't like to do short sessions, but if she's doing short sessions, near the end, she will do a trance because people expect it. They come in, they say, well, I wanted to be hypnotized. And so to some degree, and again, this is not something she normally does. It's a rare circumstance where she does that. But if she acknowledges that somebody comes in and they're not going to be satisfied unless you do a formal trance and they can really say, wow, I was hypnotized. I know it and it was great. But otherwise, you're going to adapt to the client. If open eye trance is making it, stick with the open eye trance. If you're doing something that looks like they will benefit from some deepening, then do the deepening. But only do as much as is necessary to do it. Again, you don't have to get caught up in, well, I got to take them deeper, I got to take them deeper. Well, I'm going to do this thing, which is another whole kettle of fish, because you shouldn't be planning what you're going to do. You should be responding to what the client presents. Because if you get caught up in techniques, you're moving away from the bridge. You're addressing your needs, not the client's needs. So, maintain the emotional connection. Enhance the imagination. Give this the event that you're experiencing in your subconscious color, form. I can't think what else. Not coming, but shape. Sure. Thank you. Yeah. Temperature, and that's the sensory information that makes it more real to them. Create measurability. This is on a scale of 1 to 10. Where is it? And that creates some solidification, but it also creates a point of reference so that after you have worked on it a while, you can go back and ask again, where is that now on that scale of 1 to 10? Control functions, the dial. Turn the dial up, turn the dial down, giving the client control of their subjective experience. Identify the players, who's there. Is it an abuser? Don't assume that it is an abuser. Sometimes it's just somebody else is there. One of the things that happened, Asian-looking people, we were doing some training in Kuala Lumpur. And so she was working with one guy, and it was a fascinating experience because she's saying, identify who's there. Well, there's this kid over there, and she was thinking, well, it's his younger self. And so she was saying, go over and hug him. And so he does it, and then she's going, what do you call him as a little boy? And he's going, I don't know, it's not me. And I'm listening to it. I mean, she's very intent on the situation, and she's saying, well, you know, go give him a hug. And he's saying, it's not me. It's not me. And it wasn't a malevolent force. And when she realized, she goes, oh, it's not you. Okay, well, you know, who is it? I don't know. You know, what relationship does this person have to you? I don't know, he's just there. Now later, she pursued that some more, and we were able to identify what that person was and what the role was, and resolve that. But you know, at the beginning, you know, didn't know, and it was just such a. She's been doing this for a long time, and yet got caught up in the. It's not me. Whoa. Okay, well that's a new one. So identify the players, but don't automatically assume that they are either a negative or positive influence. You know, you have to take that information from what the person tells you. And don't always assume that it's a real person. In some cases, it's a representation of something else. Soul retrieval, this is something that she does that I don't have enough time to really talk about, but the soul retrieval comes from Swiss cheese theory. When you have relationships and the relationship ends, the person who you end that relationship with takes some of your energy with them. And so you're giving up a piece of yourself. It's leaving you. And so the soul retrieval is going back and picking up those pieces of your soul, reclaiming yourself. The bottom one here, the soul retrieval for the abuser, is that when you're dealing with an abuse situation, when you end a relationship with the abuser, you're still stuck with some energy from that person. That person's energy is stuck to you. And so you energetically send it back to that person so that you're not carrying it with you anymore. But the idea here, again, is to maintain that emotional connection and acknowledge it as an emotional connection. It's about healing yourself. And so that's where you want to keep the emotional connection. Where's the emotion in yourself? And let's change that. And when that gets resolved, it's like magic. Everything else resolves itself. The other considerations don't matter anymore. Gestalt dialogue, I've put reframing here. It's really a couple different things, but in a lot of cases you will use Gestalt dialogue with either an abuser or someone who you have maybe an estranged relationship with to gain better understanding of different perspectives, better understanding of traumatic events that occurred in somebody's life. But again, those are all related to the emotional impact. You need to